Welcome. In this video, I will demonstrate how much logic and brilliance there is in the Wyckoff method, and how it can be applied even on the 1-minute fractal time frame. This is also what makes it so powerful. According to Mandelbrot's laws, Wyckoff's principles are valid across all time frames. That is why I can show how it works on a fast timeline. I am not looking for signs, I am looking for steps. I turn myself into a tracker, following specific footprints that Wyckoff defined. So let's begin. We will use the SPX 500 and the 1-minute chart. If the price is rising, we will look for distribution. If the price is falling, we will look for accumulation. Of course, we will do this only while understanding the broader context, the macro fractal structure. For that reason, we will use an attractor to help us understand the dynamic liquidity of the macro structure. We can begin to look for signs within price movement. The first movement we look for is an preliminary stop in price. The fingerprint of every phase we identify or search for is explained beautifully by Wyckoff. For those who have not fully understood or deeply studied the Wyckoff technique, in my opinion, this is a major gap in the education of anyone who engages with the quantitative process of human psychology, which is, in essence, a chaotic system. After we understand dynamic liquidity using the 4-hour attractor, we can move down to a higher resolution and begin searching for phases that align with an accumulation pattern. We are in a downtrend, so we will attempt to identify phases of price accumulation. We will use 3 primary phases to build an expectation for a potential accumulation structure. Each phase we identify further validates the accumulation pattern and increases its probability. The first 3 phases we are looking for are preliminary stop, selling climax, automatic rally. After identifying these phases, all that remains is to observe whether the price confirms them and continues to form an organized structure that satisfies the remaining phases. This is how we follow price, like an indigenous tracker following his prey. As we can see, we have a liquidity price range, and above it we have the phases of initial stopping, climax, and rally. Now we wait for a test of the price range and a liquidity cleanup before the next move. Of course, we track every phase using volume as well, which helps us verify the authenticity of the moves and confirm them as specific phases within an accumulation or distribution pattern. Now, perhaps just for fun, since it isn't strictly necessary, I examine liquidity angles in relation to their opposing angles. This forms a geometric liquidity range. Range versus range is the generic contrast of a force system that exists in a state of partial equilibrium. As price rises, the liquidity beneath it stretches downward. I use a Fibonacci extension based on the 3 pivot points that the structure created. The center of gravity, COG, of the extension generates an attractor for the current structure and indicates the liquidity location toward which price is likely to be drawn. I am adjusting the extension to the new touch points that have formed. The COG of my extension is now more accurate and up-to-date. It aligns precisely with the 0.618 level of the attractor, which represents the 4-hour liquidity. And now I am waiting for the next phase in the Wyckoff pattern, which is the spring test. I have a precise price range location where this should occur. Now I am simply waiting to see whether price responds to the box, to the attractor, and to the extension COG. In short, liquidity sweep of the whole structure. This is the entry. The 1.0 of the extension is the anchor. The target is the high of the structure. This is an accumulation on the 1-minute time frame, even though it may develop into a more advanced macro fractal. For now, we remain aligned with the objectives and conditions of the current time frame. Now, let's look at the price. I am marking oscillations and temporary liquidity points to make the price movement easier to understand. The price ranges are defined, and essentially, price has no choice but to obey the structure it created itself. Pay attention to the use of volume. Every candle, every movement, is tied to the context of volume. A move without mass does not create a spine. Here, I am marking a liquidity pool according to Wyckoff logic. Based on the price action and the candle structure, liquidity exists at this level. As you can see, the pool, according to Wyckoff, aligns almost perfectly with the COG of the price range of the extension.